Welcome to the Sensory Empower podcast. I'm Bethany, your host. I'm a holistic occupational therapist with over a decade of experience in supporting individuals helping to transform their world through sensory empowerment. This podcast is your guide to the transformative world of sensory storytelling, holistic tools, and empowerment strategies. Hi everyone, welcome to the Sensory Empower podcast. I'm Bethany, your host, and today I am with a dear friend, Sally, in her home, and we are going to talk a little bit about our sensory shares, our awareness of different tools that have been really helpful for our regulation. And I just want to introduce you, Sally. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast today. I actually have been a part of your sensory self-care group, but we have known each other for quite a few years.
Absolutely.
Back in college, which is really cool to not only reconnect through this beautiful world, but to just have, rekindling of a connection together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I want to start because I've been staying with Sally, and so I got to check out all of the regulation stations that you have built into your world. So I want to start with, what are some of your favorite things that you've maybe learned from sensory self-care, of learning about your senses, and how you've maybe kind of cultivated some things in your environment?
Yeah. Well, it's been a really cool awareness to have that when, there's a place when you might be feeling dysregulated or don't really know that you are dysregulated. And you get a chance to go, oh, well, I need to have a little quiet time. So, living in this house, it's a beautiful house, but we've also have kind of rooms that are set up to be, either office spaces or, our bedroom space. So where can I have my own peaceful, quiet moment? And I have a beautiful station outside. Which I actually just call my regulation station now, where I walk outside barefoot. So it gives me a chance to fully ground into the planet, into the earth, into myself and into my body. So I walk out, outside, and I get a chance to see and hear and listen to the birds, and the wind that's around, and I go, oh, is this mindful awareness that I'm now bringing in? And so there's a lot of different tools that, we have talked about and brought up through sensory self-care that I have now been starting to fully implement in my everyday life, as opposed to just, okay, well, I did this, a little practice, and that was fun. That was great. But what happens when I am really in those dysregulated states? Now I have tools and things that I can grab onto that I'm feeling a little spicy right now. Where can I go? I can just go outside to my regulation station and hang out. If it's nighttime and it's a little cold out there, I also have a little fire pit that's out there. Yeah. So I get a chance to turn that on and just now have some more mindful awareness by watching the fire flames. It's been a really beautiful grounding experience, which we talked about grounding, on our last call.
Yeah, so, yeah. Well, I love I'm hearing temperature awareness and textures and different inside versus outside, and how the power of shifting our environment, that we're able to shift and acknowledge the things that we need in our system to be able to find that regulation. You also use the terms getting a little spicy. So I always love touching on the concept of what does, neurospicy mean to you? What does it mean to be spicy, and what does it feel like? And then what do we do about it?
Yeah.
To hear your thoughts of your interpretation of neurospicy.
Yes. So, yeah, as an adult, I have come to certain awarenesses, I guess. Other people have, shared terms of neurodivergent, and, and there's, maybe I think of it as a clinical, maybe it's you're getting super diagnosed in, an area, this or that. But as I have, been aware of myself, I'm like, well, I haven't been fully diagnosed in this way or over here. But I do resonate with a lot of what, like the ADD, ADHD, what they talk about, or what happens within your body. And so I'm like, I'm going to be a little over here. And there's, some other emotional awarenesses that come up. And so I just like to, label myself as a little more neurospicy. And then there's like that dysregulation that comes up, which I think kind of interpret as spicy. Where, if I am super dysregulated and now I'm barking at somebody because, I didn't realize, like, oh, or it's like the spilled milk type thing. And then you just cry over little things, and it's having that interoceptive awareness of, oh, I am feeling a little spicy in my body. I'm dysregulated. And what are things that I can do to actually bring regulation, some calm, some, engaging the parasympathetic nervous system to actually, not be in such this agitated, aggressive, or whatever kind of state. Yeah. Yeah.
The spice.
The spice. And, I also really like spicy
I was like, you too. I know. We were just talking about like the sensations we feel in our system when we have really spicy food. I just love that share, and just kind of want to return back to like interoception and interoceptive awareness. And I know those are shares that you've had with, throughout joining the program for about a year now. Of just kind of learning. We meet monthly with sensory self-care to kind of go through different moments of education, learning about all 8 of our senses, interoception being a huge facet of something that I am deeply passionate about, because it's really supported my ability to tap into the precursors before dysregulation. And I feel like that's such an empowering sensation in our body to be able to have the pre-warnings before something might erupt. Agitation, frustration, anxiety, whatever big emotion or big sensation might be coming through our body, we can tap into breath rate and heart rate and something, a noticing of a feeling in our stomach, possibly, as those kind of like precursors. Yeah. So what does like interoceptive awareness bring to you, and what has it like shifted in your life?
So much. Oh my goodness. So number one, realizing that we have 8 senses was just huge and powerful. And the one that I really latched onto was interoceptive awareness. And I realized, I have a lot more emotional awareness and emotional intelligence, and can kind of pick it out through maybe other people and throughout myself, and kind of maybe realize, oh yeah, I'm having the emotional spiciness. But it's that, having the full interoceptive awareness, the body connection. Am I fully connected to what's happening with my body, or am I only connected to what's happening through emotion, and what is that bringing up through like cognitive? So yes, so having more of that interoceptive awareness of, oh, am I hungry?
Yeah, you talked about that one a lot.
Hunger likes to manifest a lot with me, where if I haven't had certain nourishment, throughout the day, that, even if it's a little bit of sugar or something, just to give something, which I've also realized food is very grounding for me too. That it just, when I'm up here and I can eat food, it just brings me back into my body. So the interoceptive awareness piece has just been, so I'm now, I haven't been as connected to, like the heart rate, but I'm now practicing in just normal everyday. I'm feeling pretty good and calm right now. And or there might be other times when I'm checking in and I'm in a big crowded space and checking in, and my heart rate might be a little bit more increased right now. Take some deep breaths, or whatever, the different breath work exercises that we've done.
Absolutely.
Have been just pinnacle. Yes. I feel like in
breath is so deeply powerful. And it's like, I think one that has been really fun to teach in class is like vagal toning and the deep power of breathwork, being able to take a full inhale, exhale, activate the diaphragm, being able to have that deep belly breathing to nourish our vagal nerve. And things like humming and gargling. We were talking about chanting and gargling and humming songs, and how our body just does things intuitively to just kind of know, what are we doing? What's happening? How can we set things up for our ability to find those moments of ease and regulation? And how intuitive our body is on how everything just moves through the world to be able to tap into a centered sensation in our body. And I think the other components I would love to just kind of reflect on with you is the community. So being able to share support and have those reflections. And as the facilitator of sensory self-care, I just sit in deep awe and reflection and gratitude of what is being shared in the community, and how honored I am to be able to hold the space for those experiencing shifts in their awareness of how they process different senses, how they are experiencing different community integration activities, if there's dance classes or different facets where you kind of go into different worlds where the experience of your movement shifts into your ability to connect into yourself. And I think just the reflection of community and how powerful community is, that's been a very powerful reflection.
Huge.
And to see it growing in just the shares and the awareness. And I'm just I squeal with delight every time I hit and record, because it's such beautiful energy. So I would just, as a participant, I'd love to hear your share about the community and what that's supported.
Yeah, the community is amazing. I mean, not only do I get a chance to connect with other potential neurospicy, minds and people, but just other people who have like-minded experiences that we may not feel safe enough to share in our normal everyday life with other people. But we might be met with judgment or non acceptance for what our true experience may be. So to get a chance to share that and to be fully authentic and share what you have going on, and to have somebody else go, well, me too. And actually my situation is a little bit, maybe a little different. And then you go, oh, that's curious. And how neat is that we're all connected. And to hear other people, share their stories is empowering to know that I'm not alone in what I'm feeling, in what I'm going through. And there's people of all ages, we can be super young. And I know that you work with, children and in your other, everyday life. But there's, people who are in their, maybe 60s, 70s, who are in sensory self-care, who are learning about themselves and their senses. So it's you can never be too old or too young to learn deeply about yourself.
And I think it's curiosity. I have acknowledged facilitating this group, the curiousness and how, the wonder, the wonder of the natural world, but also thinking about mindfulness and nature, how that's interconnected. The wonder of what our cues are from our body, and the curiousness of how we can play with different activities. And I think one that I've really loved just receiving and hearing all the insights and feedback is how we can feel empowered with the language to express with fierce authenticity, because you just highlighted authenticity, of this is who I am. And this is how, now that I have the language and the verbiage to explain to family members and friends, hey, this is just a sensory need that I have. And I'm just going to go, take a little break. Or not even need to explain ourselves. That's another huge piece too. But I think when we get to step into this deep power of, oh, it makes so much sense, and things are just starting to click in our brain of, that's why I am the way I am, and having the language to be able to express, if we wish, to those in a way to where others can understand our needs.
Yep.
And I think that can be so deeply powerful and be so seen and so heard, which highlights again the beautiful power of the community being built, of being able to share, like, I see you, I hear you, I have a similarity or a slight difference, but I also get to practice all these activities.
Yes. Well, and we also get a chance to now step into curiosity with others in our life. And now I have an idea of what my sensory profile is. And I can kind of have more of an awareness of other people in my life, of, oh, what maybe your sensory profile is. And somebody may have a more larger, auditory cup, where they need a lot more auditory input. And there's the TV on that's, really loud, and that's normally for me, I just kind of stay in that area. And then, I realize I'm tight in my body and I'm starting to get a little agitated and I'm not really regulated. And so if I step out of that environment and just go outside, where more my regulation station is more like a nature spot, I feel so much better. And then I realized some people might kind of follow me out there, that it does seem a little bit more maybe regulated out there. Or if you do want to spend time with me, you're going to spend time with me more where I'm feeling a little bit more regulated, as opposed to I'm now being in a more dysregulated state, being around, whoever that I'm with. So that has been a really powerful awareness to have. That instead of stepping into judgment, like, oh, it's so loud in here, that I can go, oh, they just may have a different sensory profile than I do. And I can have acceptance toward that, as opposed to butting heads about it. So it's so beautiful to have that awareness.
I think it just helps us build in such just deep understanding of others and others' needs and reflection of ourselves. That was a really fun class. I remember teaching that one about conflict resolution from a sensory profile difference perspective of, like, how we think through the world. And if we've got, and I know auditory is one that we touch on a lot, because there are lots of moments in our world where there are sudden outbursts of noise, and we'll go into safe and sound shortly, to kind of talk about some therapeutic listening and how powerful that's been for both of our nervous systems to experience. But when I think about the just compassion towards ourselves, like, yes, these are my needs, this is how I feel empowered to then acknowledge and find the tools that can be so supportive. I know that there's many moments where I just need to go sit outside, and just like you just shared, like, that ability to acknowledge, instead of like, oh, we've gotten here and we're at the burst of, almost at the burst of expressing a really intense emotion. There's an acknowledge. Yes, thank you. The escalation. This ability to, like, pause, check in, and shift the environment to support that conflict resolution. Or maybe something did happen where we did have an escalation and a big emotion that came out. And how can we express it in a way where we're just acknowledging the differences between the two senses? So we've got a small cup here, a big cup here. We're a seeker, and then we're an avoider, and it's just too much, and we're not able to process and handle it. So I think that just that perspective can be so healing, to just acknowledge and hold space for others, and keep that lovely concept in mind of the cup analogy when you think about, like, oh, well, that is their experience with this sensation, and this is their experience with a big group, and my experience might be a little bit different, but I acknowledge and I recognize, and it just allows this, like, compassion for each other and how we process through the world. And that has been deeply healing for me as a human, as a facilitator of this group, to hear all of the expressions and how we get to process through the world and acknowledge. I'd love to just touch a little bit more on Safe and Sound Protocol, which is a therapeutic listening program that I've become certified in. And I have utilized this. It has been a game changer in auditory processing, auditory sensitivities, and just overall regulation in my system. And you have shared some really beautiful videos of you sitting in your regulation station and utilizing safe and sound. So I would just love for you to share with the listeners of those experiences that you've recognized. I know you've shared some really beautiful wins, and I would just love to just have like a summary of your experience with safe and sound protocol.
So safe and sound protocol came into my life where I knew I needed something to kind of change and shift. But I was like, I'm not sure what that is. And then I'm just going to invite this experience in and see what happens. So I didn't want to go in with, this is going to heal a certain part, or this is going to change and shift this thing. Wanted to step in with curiosity, but also invite what's gonna maybe happen. So I had no idea what really I was stepping into, and I'm just putting on, this headphones of now. Sometimes it can be music that you know, and you can kind of sing along to, but it's set to this particular, I guess, frequency, if you will, that just it does something to you. And as I, I'm listening to, this, I'm like, well, there are active, mindful meditation things that I can also do and incorporate. If I'm listening to this for a half an hour, I can obviously, kind of pair this, with something else. So it might just be I'm hanging out in my regulation station, or making a little painting and doing some type of mindful activity. And it's been also, I've met with curiosity that, sometimes emotion comes up. And I'm like, oh, hello, tears. Okay, we're just going to allow you to flow and to be here. And then also just be, met with such compassion toward myself of, we're getting through this, we're doing this. Okay, I don't really know what happened, why that came up, but we're just going to allow it to be. And, I have realized my sleep has vastly improved. I would say, without being, I guess, fully diagnosed, but there would be insomniac actions, very, through me. Hard time falling asleep, couldn't stay asleep for very long, feeling like I'm not really getting into like the REM sleep. All of that has shifted. And that I had no idea that was going to be a potential, benefit from this program. But recognizing that, the sleep has like shifted, but I feel deeply grounded, calm, and then the word of regulated comes out, where there's a lot of more tight energy that I would have, a lot more, I gotta go, I gotta do this, I gotta, I don't know what type of energy it is, but it just felt more tight. And I just feel so much more relaxed and regulated in my body, more, able to just have awareness of myself and of my body that I didn't have maybe before, or paying attention to more now. So Safe and Sound has been a beautiful shift. And I'm actually really excited to start it again and see where my sensory profile kind of maybe has a little shift. Because I have, some auditory sensitivities that I've kind of started to realize, when there's the alarms that go off. That, oh, it's very alarming in my body. It's a little lessened. So I'm very curious to see like what further things kind of happen and shift through my sensory profile as I continue to, dive into this program again and further.
Oh, that's so beautiful to just hear the daily function, sleep routine, regulation, releasing of the tightness, stuck energy in our bodies, and like how it's such a powerful regulation tool. And you kind of talked about like tears were coming up. Were they overwhelming, or was it just like this is really insane? Because that is kind of, as we coach through safe and sound protocol use, we're always kind of pausing in those moments. If we have a big, huge shift in our system, we don't want to move too much into that sympathetic during the listening, because it can be a little jarring for our nervous system to go through. Sure. So we always kind of pace it through of like, oh, I only got through 8 minutes, no worries, I'm going to pause and finish it the next day. So were those just kind of releasing tears, or was it a big overwhelming sensation?
It was just releasing tears. It just kind of came up, and it was like, oh, I don't feel anything like huge and big in the body, but it was just this beautiful release of tears. And then a few seconds later, it just kind of burst into like this happy like laughter of like, look at that. Like I can just kind of flow through this. And how curious that this, program allowed that to flow and shift through me and through my body.
Oh, so powerful. Yes, well, thank you for sharing all your beautiful shares about the safe and sound protocol, listening, and if any of the listeners are interested, I love supporting clients with being able to have some assessments that help you understand kind of a baseline, and then maybe where we would shift to at the end. So Sally experienced doing I think it's the Ainsworth Insomnia Scale, to where we actually had objective data to show you that yes, you were in the realm of having some insomnia experiences. And, none of those assessments are diagnosing, but they're just data. They're a kind of a baseline, and then it shows that kind of trajectory.
Can I share my data?
Yeah, please. I love it.
I mean, I don't know what the full scale is, if you know, like what, the number is of the highest scale, but I was a 14, which, is pretty high, I feel like, as a number. And then just to see and hear the number shift down to, what was it, 4 or 5? I think it was a 5. Yeah, 5. 14 to a 5.
And if you like objective data, as Sally and I do, because our brains love data, that is a consideration to know that part of working with me through Sensory Empower includes those assessments to help you feel like you're getting a good understanding of like, yes, this isn't just passively listening, like there's active engagement, and there's movements and shifts happening in our nervous system, and throughout this like collaboration to be able to have those check-ins in between while you're listening. It's a very nourishing space that I try to hold throughout this container of working together using safe and sound protocol. So if anyone is interested, please reach out to me at Bethany@sensoryempower.com. And Sally, I would love for you to just kind of like maybe a wrap-up share of just a few reflections or anything that you'd love to express to listeners.
Yes, thank you. I actually had a quick share, and it was kind of also about like the community as well. That it's really cool and interesting to hear that there's some tools that really resonate with some people, and there's some tools that are like, oh, when I tried doing that, it felt really, not. And so it's a really cool, powerful awareness to just have. And we're here to practice these, and we're here to share it and say, here is a tool that may or may not be helpful for you. So let's practice it now while we may be more in a regulated state. See how it lands in your body and how it lands for you. If this is something that you're like, yes, I really like, now you know you can put it in your back pocket for something to, grab onto. And if it's something that, didn't really resonate with you and didn't feel good in your body, guess what? We're going to learn a whole new set of tools, either next month or throughout, this entire experience. So there's, so many different things that, there's somatic release, there's the breath work, there's EFT tapping, there's so many in mindfulness and meditation. All of these different things are there to help support us when we're there in those times. But if one of those doesn't fully resonate with you, then you don't necessarily have to use it. That's why I feel like you're sharing and incorporating all of these different things, because maybe this somatic exercise doesn't sit well with you, but maybe next time this one does. And now you have something that you can, tap into. So it's just really powerful to see and hear some of the community share that, oh, this one really like, works for me. And I'm like, okay, it felt a little bit different, for me, but this one was super powerful for me, like I just really resonate with EFT tapping. It's one that it incorporates so much with just the tapping on, the meridian point. So if you just want to tap, you can just tap and release. Absolutely. If you want to have a share and voice, some affirmations toward it, or even get out the, gunk that's happening. If you're stuck in traffic. Oh, I'm stuck in traffic. But even though I'm stuck in traffic, I can still deeply love and accept myself. I can still get through this. I am still safe in my car. I'm still protected. And guess what? The traffic eventually dissipates and moves, and I get to my destination where I'm supposed to be. So the dysregulation, when it pops up, it's just tools that I know that I can grab it at any point in time. So thank you, and thank you for this community. Thank you for, building and having this, awareness that you want to bring to us in this deeply powerful and holistic way that a lot of times we may not see in a clinical way, but we're like, there's something here. There's something deeply powerful that can shift and can change. We can just have, somebody that's there to help support you. So thank you for this deep support in this community space.
Yes. It's been an honor and like a huge dream for years, because I've found a lot of these power tools to help my own nervous system in moments of intensities to be able to come back to myself and hold space for every experience that I went through, and all the heart racing and all the moments of fight, flight, and freeze that I experienced, to be able to find these tools. And I'm like, I have to shout these to the rooftop, and just like have this vision of this community growing and this amazing. I always keep kind of talking about this visualization of the ripple effect of regulated people then support the co-regulation of others, which then supports the co-regulation of others, and the collective becomes more and more calm, centered, engaged, and empowered. And it's such a, it's like bringing a tear to my eye, because it's such a deep passion. Yes. So it's just an honor, honey, to have you on the podcast, and to be able to like hear your experiences, and for everyone else to be able to listen into the experiences that Sally shared today. And if you want to find more about sensory self-care, it's on my website. You can look at sensoryempower.com, and always just feel free to email me if you have any questions. And until next time, wishing you ease, regulation, and empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you for joining me on this sensory adventure through Sensory Empower, the podcast. Remember, empowerment begins with awakening your senses. Subscribe now and embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Until next time, may your senses guide you towards a life filled with peace, joy, and empowerment. Because true empowerment begins with embracing your senses.